Mark Bradford is the skipper of Blackjack. Tomorrow's the start of the Land Rover Sydney Gold Coast race. So we're on board today on Friday. So what's your tactics for the race tomorrow, Mark?
Look, it's going to be pretty simple. We're going to try and hang on to the 100-footer in the same patch of water for as long as we can. If we can achieve that, we'll just try and sit on our coattails till it gets light and hopefully capitalise at that point. If they start to extend from us, then we'll have to start to think about our risk management. We'll probably change the plan and get some leverage, get a bit wide on her and see if we can do something tricky. But certainly it's pretty simple right now. It's just try and hang on to the 100.
So in other words, if she goes offshore, you'll go with her?
Absolutely. Yep. So we won't really lead that decision making unless we get sort of 35 miles behind and we feel that we have to get a bit of leverage to get into something. But yeah, right now the plan is going to be wherever she wants to go, we'll be right there with her, hopefully.
And what about the crew? How many have you got on board this time?
We're going to sail 15 this time. That's been our standard number for a while now. I mean, we've sort of tried a few combinations. The reason that the 15 works for us is that we run a pretty regimented watch system of 4 watches with 3 on each watch, and then we leave our navigator and our tactician floating so they don't run on a watch. So those numbers sort of add up to having, and Pete floats as well, Pete Harburg, so those numbers add up to 15, and it means that it's a pretty regimented sort of regime through the race.
Now the Volvo 70 is an last time around, the second time?
Yeah, so this is the last of the development boats. This was the last development boat. This is boat number 18, ex-Telefonica. I think that these designs change the way sailing is now. You can see that in 10-15 years ago it was a Wild Oats style skinny boat, and now it's a Comanche style wider boat, and that's a direct, that's out of this family of boats that came from the Volvo thinking. They're reaching boats.
So they're made mostly for the Southern Ocean?
Yeah. Look, they're reaching boats. I mean, these boats are made to sail fast around the world, fast on the wind and pressed up downwind, so waiting for the next shift. It's complicated when you bring them to this environment, when you're sailing on a coastline, and it's getting a lot lighter overnight, and those sort of different things happen. And we're in a mixed fleet, all the boats are different, so yeah.
So what changes have you made to it?
Look, we've got a pretty simple philosophy, and we've had it with all our boats, and it's driven by Pete, who's a car racer, and that's just light. So every chance we get to take weight out of this thing, it comes out. It's been on a pretty heavy diet since we've got it, and I won't let you know the exact number, but it's down tonnes from where we got it.
So what about sales? What have you got on board?
Well look, people think we're buyers, but we're sailors at heart, and we know what's right and what's wrong, and basically we use 3DI from North Sails. Vaughan and I happen to be partners in North Sails in Australia, so that's our business, that's how we eat. And I think everyone's in every industry is proud of their product, but there isn't a product like the one that we're selling right now on the market. 3DI durability, and the initial cost is a touch more, but when you start to get years out of sales, racing sales, it's unheard of. The important thing in these sort of projects and running these size projects is you don't have a shore crew as such. In terms of, if this was a Volvo team, there'd probably be 15 assigned people in different areas: hydraulics, rigs, sales. So what we try and do with our programs, and largely this is driven from Wild Oats, and it's a pretty simple formula to emulate in Australia. If you want to minimise the amount of people you have working on your boat, just use contractors. You have to use Southern Spars, because if you have a rig failure or a part failure, Southern Spars are in New Zealand. It's pretty easy to get backup support and spare parts. For hydraulic systems, which this boat's pretty technical in its hydraulic systems, Central Coast Hydraulics, an Australian build their rams, they manufacture the hydraulics, and Johnny Bizard installs that product. So if we have a failure, we don't scratch our head, we just ring them and they can come and do it. Electrics do the brains and the PLC and they do all the math behind the winch speeds and flow rates and how the whole thing comes together. And then, Sydney Rigging obviously are probably the only riggers that have done these size boats for some time in Australia, and North Sales. So while I'm partial because I'm a part of North Sales, if you want to run one of these campaigns easily, use those contractors, largely Australian contractors, and it goes pretty smoothly.
Sounds like a good package.
Well, I should touch wood because there's a lot of moving parts, and we could have a failure just like anyone could, but certainly it does make the management of these sort of teams a bit easier.
The owner of the boat, Blackjack, is Peter Harburg from Queensland. Peter, I believe you've got a pretty hot Queensland crew with you.
Yeah, they're mostly Queensland crew, most of the crew are Queenslanders. We try and keep it that way. They're mostly amateurs, and we work together very well as a crew. They're all keen, and there are some very, very good sailors amongst them, but we all have day jobs.
Excellent. Now, tell us about the boat. Now, you got it from the Spanish?
Yeah, this was 2 years ago. It was a Volvo, built to the Volvo box rules, and it was designed by Juan K, who is a Spanish designer, and it was raced in that race as under the sponsorship of Telefonica, and it did pretty well. They had a couple of problems here and there. They broke a rudder, broke two rudders at one stage, but they still finished well. I think they were just out of the podium, but overall it went well.
And you've been doing well with it here in Australia. You did well in the Hobart race too.
Yeah, the first year, 2 years ago in the Hobart, 2 years ago this Christmas, the boat went very well. It was still in Volvo trim then. Since then we've changed a few things that we think hopefully to make it go faster. We'd like to be nipping at the heels of 100 footers and maybe even there if they stumble at some time. But it's a good sized boat to race, and what we've done to it, we hope makes it a lighter boat and a faster boat. We named the boat after Jack Brabham, who was a great Australian sportsman and a very successful Formula One driver, and that's where the Blackjack comes from. And unfortunately Jack passed away a short time ago, but he's always been very interested in its progress. And in fact, we'd finish a race, like if we got to Hobart and I hadn't rung him in half an hour, he'd ring me. What happened? How'd you go? Are you happy with it? So that was good. We enjoyed Jack's patronage, and we enjoyed his involvement with the boat from time to time.
And you were part of the motor racing people in the early days, were you?
Yeah, way back, I did a bit of motor racing. I still do a bit of motor racing as a hobby, and I knew Jack from those days. And when he moved to the Gold Coast some 15, 20 years ago, we became quite close friends, and we had a lot of good times together. He was a great guy.
So what's the program for the boat after the Land Rover Gold Coast race?
Well, we go from there on the Brisbane to Keppel race. We've got a 100-footer against us in the Sydney South Court, and then we go Brisbane to Keppel the following weekend. Then we get it back to Brisbane and prepare for the Hobart race. So unfortunately we're not going to Hamilton Island this year, but we do 5 or 6 races a year, ocean races. We've got a pretty long keel, and so it's difficult to do any other races around Brisbane, and we don't live in Sydney, so we can't do many on the harbour here.
You're coming back for the Solus big boat race?
Oh yes. We actually ran third last year.
Right.
We beat Loyal, we can put ourselves reasonably well against the hundreds. Last year in Hobart, we were third boat into Storm Bay behind Comanche and Wild Oats, and ahead of 300 footers, and that was a pretty good effort. Unfortunately, the wind died, but we finished about a minute behind one 100 footer and 3 minutes or 6 minutes behind the other one. So after 48 hours of racing, we were very happy with that. We'd like to have come third, like to have got on the podium, but it didn't work.
Well, good
Next
luck for
time.
the race.
Next time.